Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. And now your host, David Ginsburg.
Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, bringing a guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. Today we have a guest coming direct from Asgard itself. She has a background in theater and historical reenactment. She's a cosplay OG, as the first cosplay item she made was Rainbow Bright's Stardust Belt. And if you don't know who Rainbow Bright is, you need to check it out on YouTube. She's into anything from Marvel, Star Trek, Xena, and more. Please welcome Barbie of Asgard Barbie Cosplay.
Hi, everybody.
How are you doing today?
I am fantastic. Thanks. How are you?
I'm great. So how would you describe fandom?
I would say that fandom is literally everyone. I've never met somebody who has zero interest in anything. So everybody belongs somewhere, and I think that's the universal idea of fandom. It doesn't have to be the same fandom, but everybody has that enthusiasm. What
fandom, when you were younger, was the first thing that you recall, like, being so in love with?
The Labyrinth, and Jim Henson in general. Once I realized that it was his magic that created these things. I also touched on the Dark Crystal for a while, but it gave me nightmares. I was that young.
Same here. I did have nightmares originally with that movie.
Yeah, it's terrifying. I have a beautiful coffee table book now about the design of it. And looking back from that angle, it's not so bad. But yeah, it was terrifying at that point in time. But it was definitely Labyrinth that did it for me. I watched that thing a million times.
And it's such a great movie, even now.
Yeah. I got the remastered DVD. We just pre-ordered the board game, actually. I'm pretty excited about that.
There's a board game?
There is a board game. And okay, I don't know if you can put this on your show, but GameStop is taking pre-orders for unannounced Labyrinth Funko Pops. There are four. Sarah with the worm, the Elo worm, Jareth, Hoggle, and Ludo.
No way.
Yes way. You just have to go to GameStop and pre-order. I guess they're
Awesome.
going to be released, I think it's August, don't quote me on that, but I think that's what my receipt said.
Okay. How's the gameplay as far as, it's not like a Monopoly clone or anything like that?
I'm really not sure. It didn't have a lot of details, but the pieces were very Monopoly-like. You know, they had Jareth and Sarah in her vest. I was disappointed that it wasn't her ball gown, the little pewter pieces. I don't really care what the gameplay is like. It's a Labyrinth game, and therefore I will own it.
Oh, that is awesome. I didn't know. I'm going to have to look it up now.
Yeah.
So Labyrinth was your initial big thing.
Yeah, that was it.
And then you and I were talking before we started, and you and I were both message board people way back in the day.
Yes. I don't know what it was, and I don't know how I found them, but AOL was it. Terrible dial up, the speeds were so slow, and yet I found this community of, message boards and our peers and people who wanted to dissect these episodes, and that was my tribe. I was there all the time.
Same here. I had started out with a service called Prodigy, which was around at the same time as AOL, and then when my parents switched over to AOL, the communities that were out back then were really a lot different, obviously a lot different than what you have now.
Yeah.
As far as, I think back in that time, everyone was so welcoming and talkative, and there was not the negativity that there was.
And the trolls
today
didn't exist. It was incredible. I don't remember that at all. And I really feel like pro boards and easy boards have kind of continued that legacy of, being able to quote sections of an episode, and, they exist in the spirit of the old AOL message boards and the Yahoo groups. What was the other ones? GeoCities or Angel Fire. So we're all they really do the same thing. It's just far less primitive. You guys don't know how good you have it.
Yeah, I mean, besides the dial-up speeds, taking over the phone line for as long as you're on it, and then if somebody happens to pick up the phone,
You get
getting
knocked
kicked off the internet.
Yeah, so awful.
And then I remember that I would have to, for getting my emails, I would dial in just for like 5 seconds so that way they could download to the computer so I could read them and then respond without taking up my time on the internet, and then upload my emails back to so that way they would be sent out.
That's so funny.
And now it's just instantaneous.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah.
So what are you into now? What fandoms are you just so in love with?
I only really have one current super love, and that's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I am one of those people. Marvel can do a little bit of wrong. I mean, there's no Black Widow movie yet, so they're obviously not perfect. But I love that show for what it is, for what it can be. I love that it's giving us something every week instead of having to wait for the movies. I love every little thing about it. I love the characters. It makes me so happy. And I know a lot of people don't share that, but I mean, I have to talk my partner into sitting down and watching it with me every week. But it's my thing, and I love it.
What do you love about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Because I've watched probably the first half of the first season. I got into it, but then I kind of stopped. And then I have friends that watch it, and they've said good things about it. They say some not so good things about it. I know that some of the times that they were waiting for movies to come out before they could continue plot lines or progress the stories. So what is it about that show that you are just in love with?
I mean, I totally understand where you're coming from. It definitely took a good while to warm up. You really have to hit, I don't know, the second season probably before it hooks you for good. I love that it's not dependent on the movies. You absolutely don't have to see them for the show to make sense, but they do reference them in small, non-spoilery, non-plot related ways. So there are little Easter eggs after each major movie release, and that's kind of sweet. I love the characters. I love that we've gotten Coulson back. I love everything. I love the diversity of the cast. I love the writing. I love the score. Bear McCreary has done so many of the things I've fallen in love with. It's just fantastic. And I know it's not for everybody, but it's definitely for me.
Who's your favorite character on the show?
Oh, no, don't. Just... please. God. I'm going to count Fitzsimmons counts as one character. And everybody who watches it will agree with me. So Fitzsimmons.
And that is, it's the two characters. I can't remember.
It's the science duo.
The science duo, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is it about them? Is it because they're not so much field agents, but they're thrust into a new role and they're experiencing it? Is it their relationship between each other?
I do love their relationship. I am a huge Fitzsimmons shipper. I mean, I ship so many things. We won't even get into that. Like, the list is enormous. But I definitely fly the Fitzsimmons flag. I love how dynamic their characters are. Where they started, the Fitzsimmons you meet at the beginning are so sweet. They're so bubbly. And I loved them immediately. But the way they've changed and what they've gone through, it surpasses anybody else. Even Sky/Daisy, I think they've actually come further than she has. I love where they are. I love where they could go. I love where this last season left us. I'm very excited for season 4 to start.
Is there a character on the show that you think is misunderstood by the fandom community?
May. She's the strong, silent type. And she doesn't say much, but when she does say something, you know, it's important. And I think people kind of two-dimensionalize her a lot because of that, but she obviously has her motivations, her backstory, and I think she gets boiled down to a lowest common denominator a lot.
Okay, and she was one of the characters on the show when I watched it. I was the most intrigued by her, mostly because of the name that she was given, that nickname of Calvary.
Yeah.
And I mean, I never got to the part where they explained it, if they ever did.
Yeah. And it will break your heart.
Okay, because that was something that always interested me about her, was here she is being brought back into a group setting and she doesn't want to do it, but she's got like these super impressive skills.
Right. She's incredible. She's kind of the ninja of the group, but she's also so much more. And when you find out what that nickname means, that's kind of the beginning of, oh, hey, she's a human underneath all of those technical skills and everything she has on paper.
Is that another thing about the show that draws you to it, is that most, if not all, of the characters are just regular people doing their jobs in a world of emerging superheroes?
Right. I love it both ways, because Daisy is powered. There are powered individuals there. And I love especially the costumes. I just need to take a moment. Anne Foley is my personal goddess. I love how she's made. Daisy's powers are almost tech-based in the way that they give her these gauntlets, and they dress them very, special ops tactically. So it is very based in reality, whereas, you have like Thor or Iron Man or that sort of thing, and that's very fantastical. But Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is very down to earth. And it's more about the human struggles behind the world reacting to powered people. It just strikes a chord with me, I guess.
For people that aren't into the show and are interested in it, what would you suggest for them to get, like, an entry point into it? Should they just struggle through season 1 to get through to season 2? Should they skip it and just go straight to season 2?
I absolutely think that they should get through season 1. You have to have all of that knowledge of where characters started to appreciate where they end up.
Another fandom that you were talking to me about is something that is older, probably back in, I'd say, 2004, 2005 it started, and that is Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, Battlestar has been one of my lasting fandoms. I actually have a set of screen-accurate custom dog tags that I wear even now. I love what they did with the remake. I think it was so well received. I think it deserved all of the awards it won. I'm really disappointed it hasn't come back in some way. I know you were saying there's a movie in development, and those of us who've kind of kept an ear to the ground have heard rumblings for years, and I'm just waiting for it to actually happen.
What was it about Battlestar that drew you in?
Girl power, good night. That was Katie Sackhoff, and in the original, Starbuck was a man, obviously. That was the 70s. You couldn't really expect more. But even at the beginning of the 2000s, it was kind of a risk to do that and incorporate women in such a visible way in the show, and especially not dumbing down the character after making her a woman. I just think it was smart choice after smart choice. I am nothing like her, but I absolutely loved her. And
the writing, the visual effects, those were incredible for it being on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Right, yeah, for its time, it was really great. The Cylons were perfect. The scope of it, the way they would shoot wide, I just remember that shot with Caprica 6 and the windows behind her imploding. It's so iconic. It was just beautifully shot. It checked all my boxes. I don't know what it was. I'm not typically so much of a hardcore sci-fi fan, but that was fantastic.
Do you have a favorite character?
Yeah.
I know.
No, okay.
I'm pulling your teeth here.
I know. President Roslin, absolutely.
A person thrust into power, leading the Department of Education, essentially?
Yeah, she was something like 47th down the line to become president. And because she was in space when the event happened, there she was. All of a sudden, she was the survivor. I loved what they did with her. I loved, again, how dynamic she was, how rigid she was at the beginning, and how she learned kind of to adapt, and the whole Adama Roslin storyline. I also shipped those, in case you were wondering. I thought she was incredible.
She absolutely was. She is probably one of not one of my favorite characters, but one that I appreciate her character development from beginning to end.
Right. Yeah.
My favorite was the chief. I can't remember.
Colonel Ty.
Oh, not Colonel Ty. It was the engineer.
Okay. Yeah, Tyrell. Yeah.
My favorite character was Tyrell. I always loved him. I loved him and Callie together.
Oh.
I thought they were just so sweet.
That twist at the end killed me because I loved him and Callie.
Oh, it was so heartbreaking.
It was.
And then the revelation of the Cylons, the Secret Five, I believe it was, and oh my god, that blew my mind. I was, we won't say how old I was, a lady never tells, but I was definitely of the age that I wasn't expecting those sorts of things. I wasn't thinking critically about where plot would naturally go and what you would do if you wanted to surprise an audience. And so it swept me off my feet every time. Is there a character in the show that you feel is either underrated or underappreciated by the BSG fandom?
Roslyn, again, so because she was so non-traditional, I don't think she gets the accolades that she really deserves. And because Starbuck was such a scene stealer, gosh. Katie Sackhoff, I'm actually meeting her this weekend in my fatigues. I'm so excited for that because she was an idol of mine, though I am nothing like her. It was still kind of one of those, gosh, look at what a woman can be moments for me. Who else? Probably Boomer doesn't get as much recognition as she really should, considering that she played not only, Boomer, but then Athena, Sharon, the person, and then Sharon, the Cylon, and kind of having to react to the changing attitudes about her. I think she was a phenomenal actress, and I think that gets overshadowed a lot, the performance that she gave.
I think so, too. She was one of my favorite characters as well, just having her being the two different characters and having to react to the situations that she's in and just having to even act against herself at times.
Yeah, I loved her. I loved it all. I have rewatched that show so many times.
And that's a show I don't even think it's on Netflix. It's something where you have to have it. It was?
Yeah, but they took it off of Instant because I would watch it in the middle of the night when I was working. Yeah, but now you can get it on DVD.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while, and I'd love to go back and rewatch it.
Oh, it's still it's aged really well, surprisingly.
Yeah, those are the shows that stick around a long time, are those that they're not rooted in the latest pop culture references, or the graphics that they used aren't, those graphics are still hold up today,
right? Especially the Cylons. I think those are still just crystal clear, and it wasn't derivative. It was very much an original world. It was based on the 1970s, but there was nothing else we had really like it. Even though it is set in space, it's very apart from even like Star Trek. And I think that helps. There's not really been anything like it since, even with all of the space-anchored fandoms that we have. It's still one of a kind.
If they do decide to remake it in TV show or movie form, what would draw you in?
If it gets made, I'll watch it. I don't care what platform it's on, I'll be there.
That's Die Hard right there.
I do not care if there's a Sesame Street version, I'm there. If it's done in interpretive dance, I'm there.
Battlestar Galactica on the Sesame Street.
Yeah, that I don't care. I would absolutely show up for that.
Oscar is a Cylon. I just want you to know.
It's the trash can. It gives them away.
I know, right?
Yeah, toasters.
Do you ever look at your toaster and you're like, are you going to come alive?
I don't, but I do have a chrome toaster specifically for that reason. I use it every morning, and every now and then, the joke gets made, fracking toasters. And it's just a thing in our household. It was very well received at the time. We still revisit it. It's one of my major loves. So
everyone needs to check out Battlestar Galactica if you haven't already. Absolutely. I know it's a little bit older, but you can find it. It
doesn't feel older. It was made 10 years ago, but I guarantee you it doesn't feel that way.
Absolutely. I have to agree. What is another fandom that you would love to talk about?
There's another fandom that has a really sleeper fan base, Torchwood. Those of us who watched it are still kind of in the shadows waiting for it to come back.
And what is Torchwood?
Torchwood was the spinoff to the modern Doctor Who. It was Captain Jack Harkness who was introduced back during Rose's storyline. Rose in 9, I think, is when he first came in. So that first season of the modern Who, maybe the second season. Don't quote me. He's back there. He got his own show with his own team. They are humans, except for Jack, obviously. They're more like a CSI type team. They're based in Cardiff Bay in Wales, and they work on a technical and a medical level, and Gwen is kind of the audience stand-in. She's the new girl coming into the team, and she's the empathetic human side of it. And it's just this small team that works like cogs of a machine. It's very different to Doctor Who. It's much darker, I think. I loved that. I think it was fabulous.
And who is Captain Jack Harkness, if he's not a human?
Captain Jack Harkness was a human. He's a time traveler. He's not a Time Lord. He's a displaced former human. I don't really want to tell you how that happened because it's a plot point for one of the seasons, but it does explore exactly how he became more than a human and what he's done since.
Okay, and what does their team do? I know you said it's more like a CSI team.
Right. They protect Wales and the wider world from alien threats.
How long did it run?
It was 4 seasons. You got 2 really standard seasons. The 3rd season was 5 episodes long. And then, what was that? Children of the Earth or something like... I forget the name of it, but it was a 5-parter, and it aired on the BBC. And then for the 4th season, they actually partnered with the U.S. Stars team to bring us Torchwood Miracle Day, which was a 10-part, I believe, continuous season.
And what happened? Why do we have no more Torchwood? I know Doctor Who is still going on.
Yeah, it is. I know the writer, the creator, Russell T Davies, his partner had some health problems. And so he stepped back, which is also why we get Moffat in the driver's seat of Doctor Who. And I know that the actors of Torchwood have definitely said Gwen and Captain Jack were the drivers. They were the ones that were always there. They were the main characters. And they both said that if it ever were to be resurrected, they would absolutely be there for it. But I think it was all Russell's bag, really, and when his life kind of needed him elsewhere, it got shelved.
I can understand that, and life comes before
art,
work and whatnot. Yeah. Is there a need to watch Doctor Who to get into Torchwood?
No, not at all. It's so different. I mean, the premise is the same, aliens, but the way they approach them are completely different. There are a few crossover episodes that you would need to see, but you could watch them, like if you watched Torchwood and not Doctor Who, it would still make sense because the teams are both in the same place. But yeah, otherwise it's separate enough that you would absolutely still get it.
Okay, great. And is that available on Netflix? Or some streaming site?
I have every episode downloaded to my computer. That is one of my forever fandoms. I watch them. I have favorite episodes, so you can go in and pick and say, oh, I'm in the mood for this, or, this or this tonight. So I watch them kind of piecemeal these days. So I really don't know if it's on that site.
Oh, I'll have to check it out then. Yeah. See if it's available, because I had another guest on my podcast who recommended Doctor Who and told me how to get into that show.
Right. All the modern seasons, I think, are on Netflix.
I believe so.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of stuff to watch.
Yeah, there's a ton of it. Oh my gosh. There's so much.
But it's all good stuff, and it's the summer, and nothing new is on right now.
Right? Everything's in a hiatus. It's a really good time to catch up on these things or to start new ones.
Now, when we were talking earlier, you were mentioning that there's a character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that has not gotten their own movie.
Yes.
And that they definitely should.
Absolutely.
And that character is?
Black Widow. I am a huge proponent of a Black Widow movie. I know that, I mean, if you're on Tumblr, if you're a Tumblr person, you know that the fandom is crying out for this. And they keep saying, oh, you know, maybe we're definitely committing to thinking about it, blah, blah, blah. We get all these really slick PR statements about if it could happen. And so we live in this really sort of dark hope. But I've been a huge fan of Widow through the comics. I love comic Widow, actually, more than I love MCU Widow. Although I think Scarlett Johansson's Widow is fantastic. I just grew up with the Natasha of the comics. She has such a rich backstory. You could literally go in 100 different directions. She's not hurting for source material, is what I'm saying. It would be almost effortless. Like, you could write it in your sleep.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, her backstory and all of her comics where she's either an individual or with a group,
right? I especially love
are fantastic.
Her with Clint. I love it. Especially when they go off on, you know, duo missions, or her and Clint and Bobby Morse. Gosh, they're just so good. She works so well. I love her sarcasm. And her and Bucky, there's that now that we have him back in the movies. That's a huge tie-in. It's just, you could do anything. You could, and they haven't. And I do, right. I love Carol. I do, especially Kelly Sue's run on Captain Marvel. That's really when I fell in love with the character. So I am looking forward to that movie for sure. What is that, 2019, I think?
I think so, because they pushed it back to make room for the Spider-Man movie.
Ugh, don't get me started. But I really think that they could have given us Black Widow years ago.
They definitely could have and should have.
And chose not to. Yeah, that kills me a little.
And it kills me when they release their blueprint for the next, whatever it was, 4 or 5 years. And, you know, it's
and she was
lacking.
Yeah, exactly. She'll be in the Infinity Wars, I'm assuming. And then after that, I don't know. They could very easily just leave her. And it's like we're getting a third Spider-Man franchise, but not a Black Widow movie.
Right. I know. And I know that they had the PR thing recently where they said that they were looking into it,
right? But they've been saying that for years. That's
of course. And there was the big issue where her character wasn't in the Lego set.
Yeah,
her character wasn't in the action figure set.
Well, you know, that happened with Rey in the new Star Wars as well. She was conspicuously absent from so many of the ensemble toys that were released. And so it's really not a Marvel problem. It's blanket fandom. Somehow we don't value these characters when, I mean, Rey could be anything. Rey has no backstory yet, but that's just because we don't know it. It's definitely there. She could be as richly charactered as Black Widow.
Absolutely.
They absolutely have the strength to carry these things, and it just frustrates me to no end that we don't get them because, you know, boys grow up idolizing Iron Man. I mean, I did too. Iron Man was way back 1999. Matt Fraction's run on Iron Man cemented it for me, the Invincible Iron Man. But you get these, and these kids, you know, see their idols up there, and I'm like, where's Widow? Where's Widow? Oh, is that Widow? That redhead right there in the black dress? The office assistant? That's Widow? Okay.
I feel you, because I know I love Disney, and they own Marvel and Star Wars at this point. And it's really disappointing
at this point.
And the world, because they own ABC
exactly. And
everything else.
Shield and all of it, yeah.
But it is really disappointing with their lack of support for the female characters when it comes to the marketing or the toy creation, stuff of that nature, where it's like, what's going on? How come you're not doing this? And I know it's stemming from their old traditional models of action figures. They've got to be running on very old data and
yes, and what's going to sell, what's going to be profitable. And essentially the only reason for not producing that is because they think that women are not going to make them money. Female-led movies are not going to, you know, break box office records. And it's like 51% of the world's population is female. Are you kidding? We would absolutely stand behind any decision you made to put Widow or any of the other, Marvel women in the spotlight.
I know when I was reading one of the reports about the Force Awakens and the push, they pushed super hard on Kylo Ren, and Kylo Ren action figures, Kylo Ren lunchboxes, everything was Kylo Ren.
I have Kylo Ren Christmas ornaments already.
And I don't think when they were doing that, they had no idea the love that not only Rey, but I'm going to include Finn in there as well,
Absolutely.
that those two characters would get.
Yeah.
Because everything was Rey or Kylo Ren, and then Captain Phasma.
Right. Who was fantastic. Gwendolyn Christie is incomparable. That woman makes my heart stop. Anytime I see her, her roles are just, she's inimitable. I love what she does with anything she touches. Game of Thrones. Now, luckily, we'll see her again in Star Wars. I think she's great. So I'm not complaining about the Phasma or the Kylo. It's just that Finn, and especially, I think the breakout star was honestly Poe. All of my friends, after they stopped talking about Finn, it was always, Poe who came up, and he's just kind of absent in the grand scheme of things when you look at the extra bits, the merchandising, and, the PR that they do for the movies. He's just not there. So I really don't think they realize the scope of what they're creating.
Right.
And how they literally have something for everyone.
I think, and I think that's where they need to have not only the marketing, but whoever's doing the decisions for toy creation or creation of their products needs to be in with the people that are actually making the movie to see what's going on. I know that they're making this stuff ahead of time, and they're like, oh, well, Darth Vader's popular. Darth Maul was popular. Kylo Ren's going to be right up there too. He's going to sell and make money.
Exactly. And I'm sure he did, all the little Sith children of the world. My baby sister is definitely a Sith. So Kylo Ren was her jam, and that's cool. But for those of us who definitely identified with Finn and Rey, the pickings are slim.
When I go out and buy toys, I've been focusing on Rey. Like, I have my Rey Funko Pop.
Oh.
And then when I went to Legoland on a field trip, I picked up a little Rey Lego.
Oh.
So I definitely I'm trying to show through power of purchase.
Good for you. Yeah. Your dollar is a vote.
There.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. I have we'll call it a boss lady collection. Not actually what it's called, but close enough. On my desk where I keep my serger, which is a sewing machine it's kind of violent, so it shakes the whole desk. And so when you run it, all the Funkos, they nod their heads. But I've got Agent Carter, I've got May, I've got the Cap 2 limited edition Widow. That's where my Sarah from the Labyrinth collection will go. I have a custom Pepper Potts. Pepper Potts is probably my original Marvel love. Again, back to that 1999 storyline. She was very dismissive of Tony's charisma and very career focused, and that wasn't something in 1999 that you saw in popular media, and I just got stars in my eyes every time she would be written on the page. So I've really carried that. I have, the little Lego keychain of Pepper Potts. After Iron Man 3, we finally got tiny, bits and pieces of merchandise for her, and then of course Hot Toys did one, which is probably the most visible piece of Pepper Potts merchandising. But it's hard out there for us who really idolize those more, esoteric characters.
Definitely.
But I wouldn't say we're a minority, for sure. I mean, career-minded girls, teens, women who aspire to the same sort of things that Pepper aspires to, who have, a training regimen or something that mirrors a fraction of what Black Widow is capable of. We see pieces of ourselves in these characters, and I don't understand how Marvel and how other big machines don't get that they could be, from a purely profit point of view, making a killing.
I know after Civil War came out, Black Widow did get a movie. I would love if she was the main with
T'Challa?
Falcon.
Oh, or Falcon.
Oh,
yeah.
no, I wanted a little Falcon and
everybody wants more Falcon.
And Black Widow.
That man, is so hot right now. And after Cap 2, he still was. I heard Falcon everywhere, and I love him. I met him a few years back there, and he's so sweet and so bubbly about the chances that Marvel has given him. I really love Anthony Mackie, so I would love to see him in any movie they want to stick him in. But that's the thing about Widow. She's canonically linked to literally almost anybody we've seen in the MCU so far. You could pair her with anyone, and she would be fantastic.
Yep, and we could have so much with her as far as storylines go.
Right.
And you don't even need to have a continuous storyline. They could each be standalone movies.
They could, but they could also prop up what we already have. I mean, we've got Clint and his whole life on the farm with Laura, which I personally loved. I know that's not a popular opinion, but I loved. Clint is my favorite Avenger. So I also hate how scarce he is. But it would be so easy to show Natasha's role in making that possible. Maybe she introduced them. Maybe she helps keep the farm secret, keeps it safe. She worked for Tony behind the scenes, and we didn't get to see a lot of that. There's that whole, she's so tight with Sam Jackson, Fury. And we don't know why in the MCU verse. There's that whole younger Widow backstory of how she gained his trust, and there's just a million things that you could do to prop up what they already have.
And there's the interaction between her and Bucky when they're fighting in Civil War, and I think she makes the statement of, "You don't remember me."
I was like, they're gonna run with it. And then they didn't. And then they iced him. Oh my God. That was such a tease. I hated that.
Yeah, she has so much potential. And I have friends, they've been crying out for the Black Widow movie for so long.
Yeah.
I mean, they were appreciative that a Captain Marvel movie was on the slate.
Right.
But when you see the rest of the slate for the coming years, you're like, where is Black Widow? Why is she not getting the movie?
Yeah. And what did they do? Did they do 3 Hulks? It was 2 or 3.
Well, they did 2 Hulks, both of which
were terrible.
The first one was the Ang Lee one, which was, there was no MCU at that point. The second one with Edward Norton was part of the MCU. It's referenced, but it's not really included.
Yeah.
And then that's it for the Hulk. So, and I know that he's going to be in the Thor Ragnarok movie.
Yeah, which I'm so excited about. I think Banner is so, especially Mark Ruffalo as Banner, is so underappreciated. Talk about someone who is their character. I mean, I'm not saying he turns into a giant green rage monster, but just the causes he champions as a person reflect so kindly on Banner as a character. I think it was perfect. I think they finally got it right, and I'm really excited to see him again.
And I'm excited for what they've said about Thor Ragnarok, that it's going to be him and Thor traveling through like the cosmos,
and we get Valkyrie
as like a buddy team. And Valkyrie
is going, I hope she's everything that I hope for. Valkyrie is one of those other really kind of background characters that I've loved. I also had my heart set on Amora, Enchantress, but that didn't happen. But we did get Valkyrie, and the casting looks incredible. The styling looks fantastic. I am very excited.
Are you excited about the second Ant-Man? With Ant-Man and the Wasp.
No.
I believe it's the movie that they're going to call it, or that's the name.
I won't say I'm not excited because, again, Wasp. I loved her best in the Avengers Assemble, was that? The animated Wasp.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought she was perfect there, and that got pieces of her right that have never really clicked for me before. I'll watch it. I mean, I went to see the first one, but I think his little 4 minutes in Civil War was better than the entirety of his first movie. And that's coming from someone who absolutely loves Paul Rudd. So maybe it was the heist film theme. I don't really watch them outside of the comic genre, so it didn't really do much for me. I do love the character. I love that we got Giant Man. I'll watch it. I'll go in with less expectations this time and see what they can do.
I liked when Ant-Man was going to go into the Stark lab or industry, the warehouse, and that was the Avengers' new headquarters, and he had the tussle with Falcon.
Yeah.
That was great.
That was so quintessentially Falcon.
But yeah, I was disappointed because we're getting all these movies, and again, I just say it, we're getting all these movies, and they're fitting in additional movies, whether it's the Spider-Man reboot again, or or Ant-Man and the Wasp, but we're not getting Black Widow.
Right. And I'm grateful for all of the like peripheral characters we're getting, but I really hate that they keep tacking women on as like a sidekick or as less than a sidekick. I really hope Valkyrie shows up more than Sif. I thought Sif was wasted. I thought she was perfect and flawless down to the casting, and I don't think she was used enough. I could have stood with 200% more Sif. So I really hope they buck that trend, and I hope they do it before Captain Marvel.
I hope so, and you can only hope for the best with what they've got on their slate.
Right.
I saw the trailer for Doctor Strange. I'm not a big Doctor Strange person, but I like the way that the trailer went, and I'm just going to have to hope for the best on that one.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I love Tilda Swinton. I would watch her, I don't know, scrub toilet bowls probably, because if Tilda Swinton's in it, it's art. I never really read his comics, so I don't have a childhood or emotional connection to the character, which may actually help. But that'll be the first movie that Marvel's made that I haven't had that emotional connection, so we'll see.
Now, there's something that we have not touched on, but it's part of the name that I introduced you as, and that is cosplay.
Right, yeah. Big part of my life.
And how did you get into cosplay? Besides, I believe I said it in the introduction, you're an OG cosplayer way back to when you were 7 years old making a Rainbow Bright belt.
Yeah, my grandmother taught me how to crochet, and that was my first instinct. I said I needed that belt. You know, it carries her stardust, and so that's what makes her Rainbow Bright. And so naturally, that's where my mind went. And then, of course, I got busy with school and teenagering. And so the cosplay kind of fell off for a while. But when I graduated, it kind of came back. I'm a seamstress. That's what I do. I do a lot of bridal wear. I do, you know, a few things here and there. I do historical clothing for reenactors, which I grew up doing, but now I just do the clothes for. So cosplay was kind of that light bulb. Like, I already have everything. Literally, I'm sitting in front of my machine. My material is behind me. I could do this right now. It was just a moment of deciding to do it.
And how long have you been doing it since you have started over again?
I always did Halloween like full out. So I would have at least one major costume every year for, I don't know, since I was 18 or 19. But seriously, I've been cosplaying full time for about 3 years now.
And who do you love to cosplay?
Oh my gosh. My favorite costume so far has been the USO girl from the first Captain America film, Captain America the First Avenger. And most people don't recognize it, but the people who do, it's really sweet. There's actually kind of a group of us across the nation. So every so often you'll run into another USO girl, and it's really fun.
What other costumes have you done?
Oh gosh.
Or I mean, I that's like asking you to like look in your closet and pick out ones. Are there ones that you're most known for?
Xena has been really well received. I think that's been the widest, like, shared, which is hilarious because I was telling you beforehand, I look absolutely nothing like Lawless. I did a lot of makeup and a lot of hair dye and a lot of tanning and, you know, contacts for those photos. That was a lot of work to make me look formidable. A lot of people recognize me as the USO because I've worn her so often. I also built, if you're familiar with Princess Giselle from Enchanted.
Yes, I love her.
Yes, so do I. That's who I look most like. I've got really, really long red hair, and so because I didn't have to wig, I was like, I'm gonna go all out and make that wedding dress that huge. It was the bottom hoop had an 8 feet diameter. It was it was enormous. I didn't fit in through doorways. I didn't fit in elevators. It was incredible. I didn't get to do the show floor. It was poorly planned. It looked incredible, but it was very hard to wear.
I was going to ask that, like, with something that large, do you have to just have it disassembled and then assemble it once you're on the floor?
Site, yeah, exactly. That's what I did. And actually, the cage, the infrastructure of it weighed so much. I think it came in at almost 30 pounds, which was, I think, 13 pounds less than the original. I think the one in the movie was 43. So, I mean, I got off easy if you're thinking about it that way. I had to be duct taped from my waist to almost my knees to make sure that, you know, all of the petticoats and all of the hanging cages didn't cut into me and leave bigger bruises than they needed to. It was extremely trying to wear. I can't imagine acting in something like that. Kudos to Amy Adams, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I was telling somebody earlier that when I see people in the costumes, whether it's the stormtrooper costumes or the costumes where it's like you're wearing a big mech suit,
yeah,
or even the women who
the ponies
are wearing,
are what I think of, the really hard to wear pony suits, the My Little Ponies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I met a cosplayer in a competition a few years back, and it had a fan and everything in it, but he was still just like sweating up a storm. Poor guy. And he was just so happy because he was surrounded by, you know, people who also value what he values in costuming. And it was just, that's dedication, man. There I was in a dress that was relatively easy to wear.
Absolutely. That's the one thing, is that here I am walking around the convention in just normal street clothes and comfortable tennis shoes, and after a few hours I'm done.
Yeah.
I have to sit down. And there's people walking in these costumes or walking in heels or boots or whatever it is, and it's like,
yeah,
I'd love to do that. I just don't know if I'd survive.
Exactly. Stamina and dedication are really, like, skill is secondary. You have to decide to do it full out, to your definition of full out, and you just have to go for it. That's really what makes cosplay.
How do you decide on the characters that you cosplay?
A lot of times, and this is going to sound really lazy, I think about what I don't have to wear a wig for.
Okay.
My hair is so long, I can literally tuck it into my jeans waistband. So getting it under a wig is an absolute nightmare. It's so heavy, it gives me headaches if I have to pin it up for, you know, any number of hours. It's just hard. So a lot of times I look at redheads first, or with the case of Xena, I said, you know, I love this. I'm just going to go ahead and temporarily dye my hair, although semi-permanent is proving to last a little longer than I thought it would. So that's where I start. But if I want to make something, like I'm doing Bobby Morse Mockingbird's, her Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. design for her tack suit, I'm wearing that this weekend. And not only is it horrifically hot, I also have to be wigged as a blonde. So I don't let it stop me. It's just really convenient if I don't have to wear a wig. It just ends up being stuff I love.
Is there someone in the future that you have your eye on?
You have no idea what I keep a running list. I use Evernote because it syncs between all of my devices. And I have a list. Let's see, I'll open it up and tell you what's in here. I know I'm definitely I've got the stuff to build Miss Frizzle from the Magic School Bus.
Okay.
Yeah, she's one of my loves. Next year for C2E2, Legend of the Seeker is a pretty small fandom. It was around for a couple seasons, but I'm doing Kaylin to my friend's Mord Sith. I build all of her cosplays. She happens to partner with me a lot. You see her a lot on my page.
Okay.
Yeah. She was we call her Aqua Ma'am, so I could be her Mira. She was my Gabby when I shot Xena. So
awesome.
Yeah, we're doing that again. I'm finally cosplaying Pepper this September. I'm very excited for that. It took me, 2 years to decide on which Pepper I wanted to cosplay. It was such a serious decision.
And which Pepper are you cosplaying?
Iron Man 1 Pepper from the gala. It's the blue dress. It was so close. I will probably also end up making the white suit from Iron Man 3. I forget what label that was. I don't think it was made in-house. I have it filed away somewhere on my computer, but it was so beautiful. That'll end up happening.
Awesome. It sounds like you've got a lot of different but awesome characters that you're going to do.
So different. I've got a She-Hulk in the works, complete with like head-to-toe airbrush. Silk Spectre is on my work table right now from Watchmen. Silk Spectre 1, that is Sally Jupiter.
Okay.
Yeah. Princess Daisy from Mario Kart. All of those are in some state of build in my studio right now. But there's an even longer list that I haven't even started on.
Now, for those who are listening and they want to follow you, whether it's your work or pictures, where can they find you?
They can find me at Asgard Barbie on basically any forum. That's my name on Reddit. That's my Facebook, Asgard Barbie Cosplay. Asgard Barbie is Instagram. I'm on Tumblr as Asgard Barbie. I'm a really bad Twitterer. It happens like once a month, but I don't know, maybe that makes it better. I will say that I use Instagram and Facebook most often. Facebook that's where my announcements and like my scheduling goes. I do a thing called Tuesday Tunes because Tuesdays are work days. I wake up and work until S.H.I.E.L.D. airs. That's kind of my tradition. And then Instagram is where my process photos and pictures of my dogs go. So if you're in it for the puppies, definitely follow on Instagram.
Whether it's cosplay or puppies, follow her on Instagram.
Sometimes it's both. I mean, sometimes I dress the dogs up. My little white dog, I have a service dog. She's going to be, when I dress up as Frizzle, she's going to be my Liz. I have a little lizard outfit for her.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. That is awesome. And I can only imagine that if you take that to a convention, you are going to be stopped a lot.
For the dog. The dog is the cute part. That's absolutely 9 times out of 10 what happens.
Oh, that is crazy.
It's so much fun. I love it. She loves it. She's really good with conventions. A lot of people have met her and been just Trisha Helfer, Caprica 6. We met her, and it totally slipped my mind that she was a PETA spokesperson, and she got so excited to meet my dog. It was really sweet. I really appreciate stars who understand animal welfare and who make that part of their platform.
It's always good when you do have those people that you're fans of, and then they are such great participants in using their fame for
good,
just good, for good stuff.
Yeah, because as a celebrity taking pictures all day, it would be very easy to say, oh, your white dog is going to get dog hair all over me. But her eyes lit up. She made the gimme gesture. She's, can I hold your dog? Absolutely, you can hold my dog. So I really appreciate, people who are good people, whether they're famous or not. And that happens a lot at conventions. It's just a group of really great, enthusiastic people.
And I think that's who you get, like, when you're on a show or a big show and it comes time for doing conventions, the people that want to do the conventions are the ones that are really the ones that want to connect with the fans. Right. Because you see the list of people and you're always aware of the ones that aren't doing it as well. Yeah. The reports that come out of conventions of the people interacting is just almost always positive.
Yeah. They've made a choice to be there, and it's not easy for them. Some of the lines are just like was it last weekend before, Wizard World Philly. They had an incredible lineup. Tom Hiddleston for his first appearance. They had Michael J. Fox. I would have killed to meet Michael J. Fox, but I unfortunately could not be there. The lines I saw in social media photos, oh my God. Literally thousands of people lined up to meet one person who has, a finite amount of not only, physical energy, but social energy. Maybe they're introverts. I mean, actors can be introverts. And after so many people like that, it's a conscious decision to give that piece of yourself away, to do that for the fans. And I don't overlook that. And I don't think any of us should.
Absolutely. I know down at our convention, MegaCon, Stan Lee was here this past MegaCon, and his line was, I believe, 3 to 4 hours long.
That's because he's wrapping up his cons.
I heard, and I regret now not waiting in line to meet him.
Yeah, he's got at least 2 more on the books. He'll be at Fan Expo Canada when I go in September, and then he'll be at, which is his last out of country con, and then he'll be at New York Comic Con, which is his last con ever.
And that makes me sad because I just kick myself for not. His stuff was always expensive,
right?
And rightly so. And if I had known that it was his last convention, right, I would have done it.
The waits are long. He's
Stan Lee.
Yeah, exactly. He's the OG, one of the OGs. There are a lot of Marvel creators that I idolize just as heavily. Jack Kirby, Jim Steranko, those sorts of, I mean, they brought so many of the characters that I love to life, like literally thought them up and put them on a page for the first time. And you can't overlook that. I mean, as cool as modern comics are and the direction that they've taken, especially tackling, you know, social topics and that sort of thing, there were creators, there were people who did it first. And it's so cool to get to meet them.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're almost out of time, so I have to first thank you so much for making the time to come on to Tales from the Fandom. It has been my pleasure to get to talk with you today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is my first time podcasting, and I listen to so many of them. It's really cool to be on the other side.
Well, I would love for you to come back because I know that there's so much more that we didn't get to discuss.
Absolutely.
And if you're interested, I'd love to have you back.
For sure. When I'm not traveling, I'm at home. And like I said, I've got my little recording nook. I'm here. So as long as I meet all my deadlines on working whatever hours that means, I'm here. I'm available. So.
Well, fantastic.
Yeah.
If anyone needs to check you out, just search for Asgard Barbie, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook. Probably not Twitter so much, like you said.
I mean, it's really good when it happens. It just doesn't happen a lot.
The same here. I always forget about my Twitter for a while, and then I'm like, I'm not scrolling for 2 or 3 days just to see what people have been talking about.
Exactly.
I have had such a blast recording with you today. It has been my pleasure.
Thanks so much. I hope you have a good day.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/talesfromthefandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.